What's up, Lite Brite Nation?
What's going on, guys?
Now remember how we told you we wanted to build the ultimate rival to the stepchild, our Jeep Wrangler.
6 short weeks, we have gone from just a stock Bronco Wildtrak to the most insane, most amazing Bronco on planet Earth right now.
As you can see, we're back at APG, and that is because our brand new APG Bronco Pro Runner, aka Plan B, is finally done. Guys, this thing is a freaking monster.
So sick. I cannot believe the way this thing turned out. Oh my God.
Above and beyond every single expectation I freaking had. I always thought I had certain dream cars, like, you know, like if I could have a dream car, what would be? This would be it. This would absolutely have been it. This thing is insane looking. Now, this entire video that we're about to go over is all about the Bronco and everything that was done to it in the last several weeks to turn it into this Pro Runner.
APG knocked it out. This is no longer a Ford Bronco. This is an APG Bronco. It's an APG Pro Runner is what it is now. There's no Ford Bronco like
this is as much of a Ford at this point is the stepchild is a Jeep, which everyone knows is not a whole heckin' lot. APG went above and beyond, and in this video in particular, we want to go over all of the little bits and pieces, all the attention to detail, everything that they've done to this Bronco. And then tomorrow, we're actually taking it to Johnson Valley to do a full test run.
This is what Ford wanted the Bronco Raptor to be. This is a Bronco Raptor killer, slayer. Like, there is nothing that'll touch this thing right now.
Absolute annihilator.
Yes.
So let's start with the easy stuff. First things first, obviously this is no longer a black Bronco. A lot of you were really confused when you found out in the last video that we had bought a black Wildtrak. For the record, I love black cars as far as they look amazing, but I hate them as far as an off-roader goes because they are never clean looking. They are dirty. You clean them and 5 minutes later there's dust on it. With that being said though, we went into this knowing full well that we were gonna get a custom paint job done on this Bronco, which is why we went with black, because although APG went above and beyond on the paint job, and you'll see here in a minute just how in-depth the paint was, which was all done in-house, by the way. The small bits and pieces that weren't painted, as you can see just from the outside, like the roll cage, it being black from the factory, it was all in the planning. Everything about this was pre-planned and was a collaboration between APG and Kevin and I designing this. Now, if you're wondering about the color itself, this is Porsche Miami Blue, which is my absolute dream color. I've always wanted a Miami Blue GT3 RS. That's fine. I'm not even settling. If anything, I have bumped up that new dream car to a Miami Blue APG Pro Runner Bronco. This thing, the color is absolutely stunning, and I guarantee you, I can promise you to the ends of the earth, this camera, this video does not do this color justice. When you see it in person, it absolutely breaks your neck.
Now, keeping on par with the stepchild build, you know we got to go straight to the wheels. These are our Ford 17-inch wheels. It's the Lite Brite Outlaw by Baja Built. We actually finished them in a burnt root beer, which really, really complements that Miami Blue. It is insane. And you'll see here in a minute, the interior matches the wheels, which matches everything. It's absolutely incredible. So these are forged wheels, not cast. We do have cast on the way as well. We heard you guys with the 6-bolt, the 8-bolt, the 5-bolt, all that. It's coming. It's taking a little bit longer, but We did have some Fords that we actually shipped these in from Dubai because they had some on the shelf, so we had to get those in from Dubai to put it on here. And these are the same as a stepchild. They have the drain holes, they're forged, they're about 10, 12 pounds lighter than the cast wheels. They have the inner knurling to protect your inner bead from popping off when you're aired down, and you have the dual valve stems with our Revo quick deflators as well. So you can check your air pressure on one side while this baby's pouring out the air on the other side, because this thing just... It is 1 PSI a second is pretty much what that deflates at. But the rest of this build is all thanks to APG, and we're gonna go super in depth because it is insane what they did to this Bronco.
So you guys remember George from the last time we were here. George is with APG. He is literally the mastermind essentially behind this build. Kevin and I might have had a couple of inputs, but for the most part, like, this is all him. So first and foremost, I want to go over some of the outside of the Jeep, specifically this wide body kit.
The Jeep?
Ooh. No, that's normal. I called my wife my ex's name for a while.
Let's go to the outside of the Bronco, but specifically I want to go over the wide body kit. By trade, you're a composite engineer.
As close as you could define a composite engineer, yeah. I am a composite specialist.
So you guys can't see it because obviously we had it painted, but this kit here is full carbon fiber. And if you go back to our last video when we dropped off the Wildtrak to begin with, we did a full shop tour where we really showed how they make this stuff, because it's unlike any other body kit you have ever come across.
I feel like kit's typically been a cheap word used.
Yeah.
Right? Because kit kind of comes with a lot of disclaimers.
Yes.
I try to use the term body system because it is actually an upgrade, not just aesthetically, but mechanically. And a body system should replace and increase the performance, not actually be something that gives you a lower performance. It shouldn't be heavier. It shouldn't like degrade or not last as long as a factory panel. So a body system should be so much more than just a kit.
Absolutely. And this, so not only because a lot of people worry because it is wide now, right? I mean, it was wide before, it's even wider now. It's a freaking monster. I love the way that it sits. But a lot of people worry, okay, well, the fender flares, are these fender flares going to be able to withstand getting hit? Now, you might notice that the trail grapplers, the Noto trail grapplers that we had on here, these 40-inch tires stick out quite a bit more than the fender flare, specifically to make sure that our tire will keep the body off of rocks, off of trees and stuff like that. However, these are probably some of the strongest components that you'll find in a body system of any company anywhere. These things are absolutely insanely strong.
Absolutely. I can go on record to say this is the strongest off-road body system ever manufactured in the world for the first time. Like it essentially is that. I don't advise it, but you can quite literally bounce this against a mountain and you're going to scratch the paint. But having a body system that's strong is important. And what we really don't want to happen is it to self-degrade. It shouldn't fall apart by itself, no matter how hard you drive. You should be able to off-road and drive it, expose it to sun, salt weather, just like a factory body system should, and it will still stay beautiful.
And obviously we are going to try to minimize body damage for as long as humanly possible, but like Kevin and I are wont to do, we do absolutely plan on beating the ever-living hell out of this thing. The first trail we're going to bring it on, I'll let you guys guess. I'm not going to spoil it, but feel free to guess in the comments, what do you think the first real rock crawling test will be for this Bronco? But in addition to just talking about the carbon fiber and how well it's made and how well it comes out, not just quality, but in appearance, it's also just APG's attention to detail. And this is in every component of their builds. They even make these little end caps here, right? To make sure that the body lines consistently flow throughout the entirety of this Bronco. Everything is just like from building in the body lines from the factory to make sure that everything looks as OEM as possible, but even better. You even get back here to the actual fuel lid, right? So most body kits, wide body kits that we've seen, they actually are sunken in. Whereas APG, you guys kind of designed your own setup to make sure that, again, it looked factory.
Yeah, what we don't want to do is design our body around a door, and that's actually what you guys have seen.
Yep.
They will put an artificial line in their body system just so they can reuse the fuel door. It's cutting corners. It's a cheap way of doing things. No, it's a fuel door. That's the point of it. We want it to be a door, but we don't want it to take away from the look of the car.
It literally functions. It's the factory fuel door, and they incorporate it essentially into the entire body kit. But again, back here, again, it's just the attention to detail to make sure that all of the lines come out looking as perfect and flawless, and it just flows so freaking well. Now, you remember in the last video as well, we did have a kind of argument as far as which of the flares we should go with. This is the 1 inch, so obviously that's what we went with. That's what Kevin wanted. I did say bigger was better. Clearly I lost that battle, but they do offer a 3 inch and a 5 inch if you don't want as much tire poke or you want a little more full coverage. But look at this. So obviously it looks like it's a little fender flare, and this outer portion is, but look, the entire inner fender liner is made out of carbon fiber, and this stuff here is also insanely strong. Now, we'll get a little bit more into the suspension, but like just the outside, this Bronco is an absolute work of art.
Now the meat and potatoes, the heart and the soul, I don't know, the reason I guess why we're saying this will rival the Stepchild,
at least in performance, maybe not necessarily in rock crawling specifically.
I'm getting to that, ma'am. I give you your time on camera, you can give me my time. Yeah, let me finish.
It's fun filming with Brite.
Yeah, let me finish. I haven't gotten there. But so the suspension, this whole vehicle is like based around the suspension, right? The fender flares were probably built after the fact. They decided to get all this done, a 40-inch tire, and then it was like, okay, we need this kind of travel. Well, what do we do? And then the fender flares are going to be built around that. So the suspension is just a work of art as well. You have the lower control arm. If you look at that thing, that is a like trophy truck Ultra 4 style IFS lower control arm. Like it gets no beefier, it gets no better than that. You can see that we have a slapper here. We've got the bump stop right up front that hits right off that lower control arm. Upgraded tie rods, RCVs because the front axle's also been replaced with a Dana Advantac 44. Upper billet control arm, King IBP 3.0 coilovers. You can't see it yet until we come around and turn the tire, but there's also an external bypass back there as well. It's incredible everything that got packaged here. Like if you were to really go look at like an Ultra 4 car or something,
it has all these components.
This is literally like their setup. The only thing that might be different is there might be like a billet. There might be a billet arm here, but we're not needing that. Like like the upright here.
This upright's bulletproof. I haven't had an issue.
Right. So like the only thing that you'll see stock right here is literally the upright, and it's because it hasn't needed to be replaced yet. This is the right way to run a 40, to be able to daily drive, hit whoops, jump, rock crawl, none of this body lift stuff and putting huge wheels and tires and spacers and throwing together like heims and bolts. Like the steering on here is actually double sheared. If you get in and show this, Brittany, this is actually an added piece that goes onto your knuckle that double shears your steering. That's how you do that properly with a Heim.
That piece in particular, you guys designed very recently.
We did, yeah. We've never had an issue because how the materials we've selected, the hardware we've selected, and the geometry. If we don't increase bump steer, we don't put additional unnecessary forces onto the steering system. But just because I've seen you guys drive, I wanted to take an additional layer of protection for your guys' steering system and place that outer tie rod into double shear, which, you know, it's been done before in race cars for a long period of time. But this double shear is a very, very practical bolt-on solution. You unbolt 3 of the hub bolts, bolt on the double shear bracket. It's machined at a 70-75. It all lines up. There's no welding, no fabrication. It's bolts on. And it takes that upper bolt into double shear, and you've now got a bulletproof outer steering application.
So you designed that one piece specifically because you knew we were coming to get one of these.
Precisely, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but that's how you do that, and those will be available for you. You don't have to do a whole big build if you're doing your own thing at home, right? Are you going to sell these things to people?
No, I'm going to create it kind of goes back to the original strategy of APG was to build the ultimate pro runner, and then do our best to offer as many products as we can as possible to individual builders and fabricators and installers, including different suspension options, different shock options. How can we be versatile so people don't need to get it all? They can maybe do it in stages.
Gotcha.
But that steering system is going to be an individual item. Yes.
Right. So that's butter. I mean, there's no reason not to if you're going to be. You don't have to be rock crawling, high speed. You hit a rock at high speed, anything. It's nice to have, and that double shear just keeps everything exactly how it should be.
We're not your average builder. We're not your average off-road shop. We manufacture everything right here. I mean, the vast majority of everything, it's made right back here, as you guys have seen in the last video. It has allowed us the opportunity. We have a unique customer who wants something that you know, you would typically have to spend a long time designing, engineering, and then outsourcing manufacturing. It's lengthy, it's expensive. No, I just do it here.
Yeah.
Right. So we can get very unique for our customers. I mean, even in the smallest of details.
Yeah, which is awesome, and we have some of those small details here
We'll
in
show
a
them.
little
We'll
bit.
definitely show
We'll
them.
definitely cover those. So I do have to mention, you have all this beefy stuff. Of course, we do have a 74 weld rack, and that's not something you can see. So 74 weld makes a billet steering rack that we have in our Bronco Raptor, and they have not had, as far as I know, any more failures.
I've never seen one break. No.
So if you're going to be doing big stuff, you're going to be upgrading tie rods, you're going to be pushing your Bronco Raptor, anything like that, the 74 weld rack, billet steering rack is the way to go.
Again, it's all about doing it right.
Yeah.
Doing it the right way so that you're reliable off-road.
Right, and some of this is overkill, right? This is the Pro Runner, top of the line, everything. APG does make other kits. They are maybe just your IBP here and not the external bypass. Most people will only need this system right here with one shot per corner, because it is a 3.0 internal bypass. There's actually a lot more to the system. Do you want to help me out? Because I just gave them like the big
cool.
stuff. So what's all the extra little
Kevin,
things?
you're doing great.
I'm excited. I'm ready to
freaking
go.
with it. No, I mean, dude, you freaking nailed it. You know, that's just the construction of the componentry you get. Bigger, heavier, stronger is going to be reliable on a trail.
Right.
But like this, how about the in-between things?
Right.
Right. Hey, I've got 40-inch tires, got the strongest of everything. I'm going to go out wheeling. I'm going to be in the desert and be smashing up and down. Then you get off the trail and like, oh man, I'm out of alignment. I'm driving home with your steering wheel all crooked. It's like, no.
Which is easier to do on a solid axle vehicle. On an IFS, if you do that. But
I've done it. I've done it. It was like, so what do we do? All right, so let's lock out the lowers. So we kind of built up this bit of lower control arm. It's a cam lockout and a reinforcement kit. So that essentially deletes the cam adjustments on a lower control arm.
Okay.
So you cannot align the car with the lower control arm.
Right, it's locked out.
It's locked out.
Right, I've had my Bronco move. My
Yeah,
Raptor.
yeah,
I've had the
it
Raptor.
happens.
Every time,
and it moves, and I've marked where the when they did
So
the
you can
alignment.
put it back.
I marked it, and I get under there on the trail, and I turn it back to where it was at, and I lock it back down.
Exactly.
But once it's moved a couple times,
it's
starts.
not as strong.
It starts moving again.
But people are like, oh, if you can, well, how are you going to line the car then? It's like, no, you can still line it, which we forecasted this, right? So we put a lot of thought into the original design. In come some small details on the upper control arm, and we'll kind of jump into it. Our half shaft axle engagement is exactly where we want it per RCV spec. If the axle's too far in, when the bar droops, you lose down travel because the bar will hit the housing. If it's too far out and as you're cycling, you can pull your CV axle, especially if the geometry is wrong. So we wanted that axle right in the ideal location. Lock in the lowers, but now we've got to get the car aligned. We've got to set camber caster and then adjust the toe and the tie rods. The problem with pretty much every aftermarket upper control arm is they're fixed joints, or they have a Heim adjustment, but in order to make a change, you got to disassemble the whole suspension, make a Heim adjustment, put it back on, reassemble the suspension, and then realign it. Your alignment shop's not going to do that.
Most
not
won't.
going to happen.
A race alignment shop maybe, but
Maybe.
it's going to be there for days, and they'll get to it when they can.
Yeah, but I mean, or we essentially thought about this.
Right.
So we put on some double adjuster sleeves back here. So as soon as you, and it's like it's double redundant. We've got 2 pinches and a jam nut. We don't want this thing coming loose in heavy use. So you would loosen this jam nut, loosen these 2, and then turn this adjustment sleeve, and then you can go in and out. This is essentially your camber line, and this would be your caster increase. Same idea on this side. You can make your adjustments without removing a single component from the car. Get the alignment, spec, lock it in, set your toe, and go. Brittany, earlier you were talking about the kind of carbon liners. Yes, carbon is sexy, it is strong, it's awesome, but there's actually a mechanical reason for these. And we'll kind of come up and you'll see the original fender has your bolts up front, it has the upper A-pillar, couple up top, and down the door jamb. But what people don't realize is that when you go wide body, where your fender was typically mounted, this wide, all those attachment points that bolt the fender to the car, you lose those. You lose half your attachment points. We developed this liner to be so strong because we actually wanted to reattach and reuse all those attachment points. So this is actually a cosmetic and a structural component. It protects the engine bay from debris getting into the wire harness on the door. It also looks great. It's high clearance for these big tires, big suspension.
So this isn't just it's
Inner
not just
fender.
a plastic inner fender, right?
It's structured. You can't move this. We want it strong,
Gotcha.
right? I've even had it happen where I kind of scooped up a big boulder on top and it hit the carpet, went straight through and it ripped out my door harness right there. It happens. I wanted a liner that was going to serve a lot of purposes. So every, like the theme is every component is thought out, including a wheel well liner.
And finishing out the front suspension, you can see our actual external bypass. So both the IBP and the external bypass have long fin reservoirs. So there's no way, no matter how hot it is or how hard we're gonna push this, that we're gonna cook the oil in this or anything. I mean, it's just, this is a race car stuff that we're gonna be able to daily drive and go do race car stuff without having to race it. I don't want to race this thing. I would almost, but it would have to go in like the big boy class, like with actual $500 million race cars. But you literally can't get any better. It's absolutely phenomenal. And unfortunately, the stepchild's gonna get its ass handed to it if we're gonna go through the desert. Stepchild's got a bigger motor, more power, probably about the same amount of travel, but we're only one single IBP. We don't have the external bypass with it.
Right now, how we set up the suspension is exactly for what you were talking about using. Let's say essentially you wanted to, in the future, put a heavier bumper or add more weight or put a bigger motor in here. Wink, wink.
Bigger motor?
Wink, wink. I'll thumbs up that one.
Yeah. So let's keep going and move back to the rear suspension, because the rear suspension is just as crazy as the front. So the rear, we'll have to start with the rear axle. A semi-float Dana 60, but it's got some actual extra trick stuff in it.
Yeah, it's not your typical semi-float, right? But the way Dana has kind of created these dual taper bearings on the outside, how strong the axle is, the hubs are, how strong the axle tubes are themselves, the internals, it's just, it's strong. It is very,
you haven't
very
had any
strong.
issues with it, and you've got 20,000 miles.
20,000 off-road miles,
right,
essentially.
Right.
We beat the living piss out of it. It is a strong axle.
So the Dana axles, the Advantac 44 front, you can get from Dana for your Bronco, and this rear 60. So if you are going 38s, 40s, wanting to do that, you can actually probably just get, I think I saw them on Northridge or on Dana. I'm not sure who sells them. I think I saw them on Northridge's site.
Tons of distributors.
Yeah. But that's the thing. If you're not doing this, but you're wanting to actually get bigger tires and not break what came in the stock Bronco, you can actually buy them. It's already out of the box, ready to go. So the rear.
Sorry, Kevin. Naturally, these axles are built specifically for us.
These ones.
Yeah, these particular ones. The width, some of the strength options, we've kind of put our own twist on them.
Right.
But Dana does have options available for OEM replacement axles.
Right.
OEM bracketry, OEM everything.
Correct. Yeah. Now the rear, you can see coilover bypass. This is what I wanted to do in the stepchild, was this coilover bypass, but the Bronco, for some reason, you can package it inside the wheel well here, where the Jeeps you can't. You'd have to actually cut into the back and get a shorter back seat and all that. But this is nice that you guys were actually able to package a coilover and a bypass together to work on this.
This wasn't easy to do, and without modern engineering, we could not have accomplished this. I've seen other builders have a similar packaging, but they didn't go outboard and they didn't finesse it with the geometry that we did, and they are tubbing it. But we didn't tub this at all. We're fitting a 14-inch coilover back there. That's tough to do. It self bolts to the original shock tower way down here, orientates everything where it needs to go, and there's 3 tube reinforcements that strengthen and bring everything together.
Yeah, which is absolutely incredible, along with another bump stop back here as well. You literally can't get any better back here.
That's it.
You can't get any better up front. You can't get any better in the rear. Now again, you can, this same hoop, this same shock hoop comes on any of the builds, but you would just choose if you want just the IBP or the IBP with the external bypass.
Correct.
Of course, we know that we're going to push it extra hard. We wanted the external bypass as well. But it is possible, and it runs great. They run great with just the
Fantastic.
IBP.
That 3.0 with IBP is valved so well, you can romp on it.
Yeah.
With this big tire.
And it's
but
good.
You, sir.
Yeah, it's the next little level.
Yeah.
I know.
You need the trifecta of everything.
I did.
The 1, 2, 3.
I did. Now, of course, it also has been changed to a long arm as well. So, long arm in the rear, along with your coilover bypass, with your Dana 60. Oh, and the track bar. The rear track bar is actually properly set. You'll normally see.
Or, this is a throwback, also called a panhard bar.
It is.
Panhard.
Which, once upon a time, we had a Land Cruiser. I used to call it panhard. We got a Jeep. I continue to call it panhard, and people got so mad. That's not what that is. You're just making up words, Jeep people.
The
track bar, synonymous to panhard.
So I see them on Jeeps all the time, where you'll see that rear track bar at like a 45-degree angle, and then people are wondering why everything's walking so far. You've got to drop the frame side. You've got to raise the axle side. You want that thing as flat as possible. Well, if you get under here and look, he dropped the frame side. He has this here. Look how flat that is. after the lift. So that means
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be. So that means as you articulate and this drops down and goes through the motion, you're not going to get as much axle walk because it's so long and it's actually properly flat.
I also want to get into the adjustment. The lower control arms, the upper control arms, they're double adjusters, left and right hand threads. So as you change your ride height, you can lengthen and adjust this. So not just the lengths and throws of the overall 5-link system, but also the mount positions. So this panhard bar, because we actually shifted our axle back a little bit. This upper track bar mount was moved back to keep everything in phase. But you'll also notice we have 1, 2, 3 different height settings. So if you wanted to run a very tall ride height, you can on this Bronco. Right. You can crank the coils up, and you can add, if that was your thing, you could run 6 to 8 inches of lift on this thing and still have all the adjustment. If you want to keep your track bar in spec, you would lengthen it via the double adjuster. You would recorrect your pinion angle with a double adjuster lower link system, and you can move this panhard to a lower setting to still keep a virtually flat setup.
Again, it's all about doing it the right way, which is what APG is absolutely known for, which is why we brought the Wildtrak here, because these guys know how to do it and they know how to do it right.
Now with all the suspension, we've got to go over the real world numbers of travel and articulation and all that. Now the front, I want to say, is only running 8-inch coilovers, while the rear is running a whopping 14-inch coilovers. But if you know anything about IFS, the way the geometry works, that 8 inches turns into 16 inches?
This suspension system is capable, the front suspension is capable of 18 inches usable wheel travel. Now, meaning with this body system, because of the tire size, we need to slightly limit up travel via those quick and easy adjustable bump stops. All you do is loosen it, thread, crank it up, tighten it, and you're done. So, no re-welding, no fabrication. That's it.
If you're going to be actually doing mostly only high speed, mostly desert, and want all the travel, you'd run a 38-inch tire.
That's a perfect size for 18 inches of travel.
So if you want all the travel, you run a 38. If you want more tire, a little less travel, you can run a 40. So it's nice that you can run either or. I wanted the biggest, baddest. Yes, I'm going to be using this for high speed, but we are going to be using it for rock crawling.
Yeah, so Kevin, 16 and a half inches of travel is still fantastic.
Right.
So we might not be getting the full 18 since we're not running a 38, but we still have 16 and a half inches of full usable travel in the front.
And then the rear is going to be a full 17-inch with a 40.
We're going to full 17-inch usable wheel travel with a 40. Just because it's a solid axle and how we design the body, it's virtually just cycling up and down. You're getting full range of motion regardless of tire size.
Right.
The limiting factor is the center point of the shock system.
Right. Now, if you're asking, like, wait, how do you get a 14-inch shock and 18 inches of travel or 17 inches of travel? Well, that's because it's not mounted on top of the axle. Everything's mounted forward of the axle, so you have an actual arc as the suspension travels. And if you'll notice, the coilovers and bypasses are actually leaned forward properly. The rear should be leaned forward, so as this tire drops down and forward, it gives you all of that travel, and it does so in a smooth line.
Yeah, I like to kind of like draw an imaginary C, and if you took that C and then opened it up, it would measure longer than just the point from here to here. And that's how we measure the arc.
Right.
Now, moving underneath the Bronco, we all know an off-roader is not a proper off-roader until you've got the right armor to protect it from the harsh conditions of the trail. So underneath this Pro Runner, we've got Next Venture Motorsports skid plates, which, as most of you know, these are the same exact skid plates that we run on the Stepchild, just in the Jeep version. They're also all equipped with this UHMW. Now, if you don't know what UHMW is, you don't watch our videos enough. This stuff is basically self-lubricating. And I know that sounds hilarious, but it's highly functional in all the right ways. Essentially what this stuff does is when you hit a rock, it glides like butter. It keeps you from getting hung up, all that screeching noise that you get from your skids or your factory skids hitting rocks. You won't have that anymore. It helps to absorb the impact so it's not as harsh of a hit, and it keeps you from getting hung up, from it dragging and getting hung up on the metal. Now, these are also aluminum skid plates, which means they're lightweight. You're minimizing the amount of weight that you're putting underneath this thing. They also went ahead and put UHMW underneath this long arm bracket here. So the idea is, as you come off of this skid plate on the rock, it drops right here. You're gonna glide on this UHMW. You're gonna glide down that rock on this round lower control arm. And way down here as well, you can see they still have UHMW underneath the shock brackets and the shock mounts all the way down here. all of this is just to help maximize the functionality off-road and keep you from getting stuck on rocks. And as far as smashing rocks goes, the Bronco's also equipped with Next Venture Motorsports rock sliders. And again, if you haven't been following our channel, you know that Kevin and I have helped design these, not just for the Jeep, which are absolutely indestructible, but for the Bronco as well. One thing that we're really proud of is how Dan from Next Venture Motorsports was able to minimize the gap here, so you get the maximum clearance possible with these rock sliders. And they're incredibly strong. But what's insane is not only are they equipped with UHMW again on the bottom to prevent you from getting hung up on rocks, but APG went a step further and they even added this wild carbon fiber plate on top. Now there's functionality to this. It's to keep rocks and mud and all sorts of debris from getting inside the inner parts of this rock slider. But in addition to that, it just looks sick as hell.
So keeping with the theme of armor, we finally have a Bronco with a proper rear bumper, because as you remember, a Bronco Raptor smashed the factory bumper up on a rock, which then smashed the flares off, and it's still like that right now. I do have a rear bumper and I do have fender flares courtesy of somebody.
We have a lot of takeoff parts.
So I have that ready to go on because the Bronco Raptor is for sale, because we have this now. So someone offer me a price on the Bronco Raptor and it'll come with everything that's in it, all the radio, all the stuff. But anyway, it's for sale. Message us. Let's move on to this. So what's this
proper bumper?
Proper bumper with a 40 on the back of this. And why can we run that? Why? What happened? Tell me.
We tried the tailgate reinforcement kits. It's just not going to support a massive 40. It's too much weight.
Yeah.
Banging around the desert, just yanking on the hinge system's not going to work. In come this Expedition 1 APG collab rear bumper. It takes all the weight, transitions it out to this corner mounted spindle. It's got these massive double taper bearings inside. Just realized what I did to that shaft. Kind of takes the weight completely off of the tailgate assembly itself, merges it down to the spindle, which is in this massive freaking steel. This thing's like 3/16 steel, plated,
and we have the
gusseted,
backup sensor still here.
full functionality. It's strong. It follows the transition lines. It's just right. Bolts to the frame, reinforces, and even tightens up the rear end. Houses the winch system.
Tight rear end. We like that.
Tight rear end.
Now it is super easy to open this baby. Like. That's like nothing. Actually, the thing that's making it the hardest is the freaking shock back there. That's what's fighting me. But
Ford's got this like 2-stage thing, so it doesn't like pop open and just hit somebody.
And as you guys can see, they didn't just paint the outside of this Bronco. Like everything got painted. It is absolutely incredible. Way better than the Ford factory paint job. I'm sorry, Ford. We've had blemishes on 2 of our Broncos. Like it is what it is. But this thing. It's just tits. I mean, it's great. Did you want to tell them a little bit more about the actuating back here on how this works?
Back in the day, when I had a big spare tire carrier, I'd have to kind of unlatch it, then do a secondary, and like that's just annoying. Like I want to, like, watch your fingers. Like I just want to get in and get out. I'm always in the back of my car, but in order to make that possible, you've got this like bit of a pivot hinge system back there. The engineering is already complete, but the idea is a single stage opening operation, but as you close, you'll notice those 2 bumper pads, tire to carrier, carrier to tailgate. It all, as you close it, it all cinches, and then it just gives you that friction that you need. So you have very minimal tire movement bouncing around back there, and it's important. All the weight just can't go to the spindle. It has to like divest the load and the friction across everywhere, so it stays on there.
Now, if you're wondering why we're running a spare at all, it's because with the high-speed vehicles, you need the weight back here. You have the engine, you have all that stuff up front, and what happens a lot of times, that rear starts to buck. You start hitting whoops, getting stuff, and the rear wants to come up. So putting the weight back here is really good. As you saw earlier, just a second ago, there's actually a winch underneath the rear bumper. It's actually, you can't see the winch because it's hidden with a plate. It's got its own skid plate and everything that's up above here. So once the exhaust was moved, he put a winch plate back there, so we still have a winch. We can still recover ourselves in the case of getting stuck. We still have a way to go. I do want to make it a little lighter back here, so I'm gonna let the air out of the tire. That'll lighten up the tire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
How much
is
does
that
air?
how that works?
Yeah, there's 40
It's
psi in the tire, so that's
different. There's different gravity inside of tires. That's logic.
yeah. No, but what I do, because we are running a spare and we do plan on rock crawling this, I like to run no air in the spare. If I need it because I pop a tire, I'll just fill it up at that time. But if you air it down now, when you come down off a rock, I don't want all the weight of the vehicle to be on this, you know,
A
on the
ledge
spare.
or a rock or
So
coming
it'll
off.
at least let us crush it all the way to here and then the weight of the vehicle. But that, I doubt I'm coming off of something this.
No.
That's
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So the whole vehicle is also equipped with Baja design lights in the front, in the bumper, and even right here. This is a super trick rear light. This has a license plate light underneath, a brake light, a running light, and it's a chase light.
That's chase light. Yep.
So it's literally
All in one.
all
of
in
the
one.
things.
What's this? Do you remember what it's
It's
called?
the RTL Mini.
RTL
Yeah,
Mini.
they make a bigger one, but that look kind of funky back here.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah.
houses nicely right on top of the license plate light.
So this is everything in one that you
Everything
could
in
want. So running through the desert, there's dust. Turn on the chase light so people can see you through it. You know, they're not going to be catching me anyway, but you know, we'll turn it on. And as you can see, we have some diffused sports here in the back. So if we're setting up camp or we're backing up, we're on a mountain road, whatever, there you go. Factor 55. So we have a Warren winch with the Factor 55 fair lead and ultra hook, and that's all hidden away. So this is nice. If I'm going through mud or we're going through somewhere, I get stuck in sand, mud, whatever. I can pull myself back.
We have the means to self-recover
Yeah.
because we didn't want to put
A
a
winch.
winch on the front of the vehicle.
Yeah.
We've also got Baja Design's XL linkable light bar on the front. So we've got 2 spots, 2 combos, and 2 diffused, which should be more light than anyone should ever need. But just in case, we also have 2 XL Pros on either side of the Bronco, and we've got these guys, which are pretty sick. And a lot of people generally like to run like light bars up high, which totally can do, but I don't like having the light emitting from such a
Yeah.
higher thing. It actually, I feel like in a lot of situations, does more harm with your visibility than good.
Yeah, sometimes like I will run my upper light bar, but only like if I'm on a clear night. And it's hard to plan that, but if I'm out there, like I'm gonna aim it 200 yards down,
Yeah.
right? Like so it's not blurring my 20 to 50 yard vision.
Yep.
Like it's not just like about having a lot of light. You need clean light. That's
Yep.
important.
Absolutely. And of course, as far as the front bumper goes, we actually went probably not the route most people expected. So the front bumper,
I'm about this bumper. People are like, why don't you put big bumpers on the front? Like, one, I don't want a bunch of extra weight up front. I've
Yep.
already got a freaking engine. We couldn't design or build a better bumper than this. It's got an amazing approach angle. It's accessory ready. It's provisioned for the airflow you know the engine and the powertrain needs. It's got your adaptive cruise control bracket, your proximity sensors. It's just a great bumper.
and it's modular, which is super convenient. But on top of that, what's kind of really important, I don't think a lot of people understand, we've never hit the front bumper on any of our Broncos in any of the rock crawling we've ever done because they are so close clearance. That approach angle is wild. And if you're hitting the front bumper before you're touching tire, you probably shouldn't be trying to climb whatever it is you're trying to
not
climb.
gonna make the break over
Yeah,
there.
you're not
Go
going to
home.
make the break. It's the rear bumper that has always been the issue, just like with the Jeeps.
But this isn't factory.
No, this part right here is not.
If we can't make something better, we're not gonna touch it.
Yep.
But it did need some improvement for aesthetics and clearance. So if you look at the side of the Bronco, you see how it contours. This is what we kind of call our high clearance bumper corner.
Yep.
It's a quick little couple $100 part. It's fabricated. It's powder coated to kind of match the existing powder coat as close as we can. It allows for the same accessories. It matches the geometry. It's a bit more high clearance. And it just does the job it's supposed to do.
just looks good.
It just looks good. That's it.
Yeah.
And again, going back to why we didn't run a winch on the front end, not only are they bulky, I haven't seen one that doesn't look terrible because most of them just look bad, but on top of that, generally a lot of them end up blocking a lot of that airflow that you just need up front. So the rear winch was the way we wanted to go, even when we thought we were going to modify previous Broncos.
Now, I might find a way to put some rollers underneath, so if I ever have to pull myself forward, I'll run it under the vehicle and pull myself with the reach around.
Oh, is that what? Yeah.
I'll figure that out later. For now,
Kevin, if you figure that out, I'll put it into production. For this hood system, this is actually an original Bronco hood. We took a different approach to get the performance and the aesthetics that we wanted. So we created this. Brittany's up there. I almost said Brittany's a hood ornament.
I mean, I can be. I'd be a pretty.
I'm starting to understand the vibe here. I'm getting it. This is an all carbon heat extracting hood system. The idea is, and our model Brittany is going to point out for us.
Aww.
So this hood trim
Got your butt.
Kevin.
The hood, Kevin, the hood. So this system bonds to your OEM hood. So factory latches, factory safety restraint systems, but it looks completely factory original. Now this isn't just for aesthetics. Look how many open louvers you have. We want the heat out of the engine bay, that's everything. But yeah, you can do that, but what happens with the water? If you have a fake hood vent, water just pools, and if you have a real hood vent, the water then just drains on top of your fuse box and your engine, and we didn't want that like pretty much everybody else is doing.
Yep.
So this is allowing heat to escape, and we've got some aesthetic stuff I want you to point out.
So I want to really point this out. So if you come this way and you look closely, obviously this is stunning carbon fiber work. But if you look right here, that is a V-weave going down the center of the hood. And if you know anything about carbon fiber, you should be awestruck to see that. And it's done with absolute perfection. That is a work of art right there.
All right, cool. So yeah, I kind of defined how the heat's going to escape, and I show you the water's going to drain through the same louvers, and we didn't want it to drain on top of the motor, so it's going to be caught right here. Okay, so here's the lower hood pad. It utilizes a similar attachment style as an OEM hood with these little push pins, but notice we've got this embossed APG logo and these raised louvers. The raised louvers are going to allow heat that's right on top of the radiator to go up. Heat rises if you didn't know.
Yep.
It's going to go up to these louvers and escape right through those louver channels. And because these are raised, the water's not going to drain out of those same areas. So the water's going to follow the path of gravity, and it's going to trail down the hood, and it's going to drip right down in these factory drain ports exactly as the factory intended it to. So it's functional and it's aesthetically pleasing.
While we're under here, you also might have noticed a few other slight modifications.
Yeah, a couple, and you guys have got a lot more coming, as I understand. Just to kind of get the Bronco breathing a little bit better, we teamed up with S&B. They created a fantastic serviceable cooler intake. It allows for front induction as well as side performance induction. It's a serviceable air filter, and it's also got this really sweet removable cover in the front, so you can kind of get there and see, you know, how caked am I. Sometimes if you're just traveling behind someone on a long trail, you're just breathing in so much dust.
Yep.
And some people don't realize, like, sometimes their filters are so dirty, but you just can't see them, so it's like out of sight, out of mind. So I like to be able to see my air filter, and you know, if it's caked in with dirt or mud.
If you have a turbo vehicle, especially any vehicle, but if you have a turbo vehicle and all of a sudden after lots of desert driving you feel like it's down on power, it's more than likely not, the turbos aren't able to suck the air through the filter. It's more than likely caked. So if it's running weird, or it's not revving out to the moon, or it's not doing what it needs to do, that's probably going to be your issue. And then you got a sweet little bracket right there.
Yeah, we had some fun. We wanted to put the onboard air system for you, but somewhere that was just like out of the way and it's not going to be obstructive or annoying inside the car. So you've got this twin piston air bead compressor that's hardwired, hard plumbed. This just stays there permanently. That's teed off here, and then we sent quick connects to the front bumper and the rear bumper. So you just got a very convenient tire inflation system.
So basically these are our quick connects right here. So when we're ready to air up, this is all we need.
Craftsmanship is everything. Our build shop is second to none. You're going to notice a lot of the final fit and finish and the quality is important. As just a small example, for the rear winch system, we outfit these with all these isolators. We don't want to send a constant heavy gauge wire to the back of the car that's constantly charged. God forbid you have some sort of mice or some sort of rodent chews through or vibrates or something. We don't want your car to catch on fire. So we got this isolator put into position, hit a switch, sends power to the rear bumper, now your winch is activated. You've got your switch pro in here, high temp, wire shielding everywhere, everything tucked up, neatly zip tied up. These are your spare inputs right here. Just the idea is not just like putting parts on a car correctly. That's important. So the installation team here is just freaking awesome.
And then as we shut the hood, again, just little attentions to detail. So we got little amber forward-facing lights, LED lights, which is so cute. And then of course, again, just body matched little bits and pieces throughout the entirety of the Bronco. Especially as you come around to the back, I don't know if you guys noticed, even the Ford emblem in the back, they color matched to Miami blue. And that, taking that entire emblem apart just to paint it properly, the right way. Again, it's all about doing it the right way. That's insane. Now, for the creme de la creme, the cherry on top, the interior, As you can see, we didn't leave the interior stock or factory either. We kind of went well above and beyond. And by we, I mean Catskins. The number one reason, other than the fit, the finish, the quality, there's a million reasons why Catskins is amazing. But the main reason is, just like our Jeep, not just heated, but cooled, AC'd seats. So not only do we have heated seats now, which we did before, but now we also have cooled seats in the Bronco, which is pretty sick. So obviously we got the Lite Brite Nation logo put on here. We've got this brown leather to match the wheels that we got, but it's not just the seats. If you also look, we've got the door panels. The door panels are wrapped, and if you were paying attention, the center console was also wrapped, along with the dash. You've heard us before, the main reason we've really loved the Bronco Raptor over the base Broncos, I guess you would say, is because the interior of the Bronco Raptor was really nice. Whereas the base Broncos, in a lot of ways, it's just not. It's lacking. It's a lot of cheaper plastics. Whereas this kind of just, it spices it up. I would venture to say that the interior of this Bronco is way better than the Bronco Raptor. And I might be a little biased there because I've got my business logo right there as well. Now I will say this too, it was amazing for Catskins to do this, and they actually did it with their mobile installation vehicle. So they literally had a van that came all the way to APG, and they did it in a mobile van. And again, if you remember, Catskins aren't seat covers. They're literally a replacement for your OE seats. They are OE fit, finish, and they're way more comfortable than that marine grade vinyl that was in here before that literally you just sweat through. There's no breathability in it. Now we've got air conditioning in our seats. Now moving on, as far as the interior goes, you'll also notice the auxiliary switches that Bronco comes from the factory are already equipped. Now what we didn't expect were these cute little stickers that APG already had ready to go. All of these control all the lights that we just went over on the outside of the Bronco. But that's not all, because we knew that we would need more switches. These auxiliary switches were not going to be enough. So we brought in a little bit of love from Switch Pros. Now, one thing that's really cool is Switch Pros has this factory bracket for their panel that makes this whole mounting situation seem like it's OEM, and that's pretty sick. But that's not the only cool thing about Switch Pros.
No, this is in a great location, but like pretty much every customer calls us, runs out, it says that they ran out of source inputs.
Yep.
So having an auxiliary Lite controller that has 8 inputs, physical with a physical touchscreen. They even have a 12, by the way.
Yep.
And then also an additional 6 under the hood, which you can control via Bluetooth app on your phone. It's backlit. You've got strobe functionality. You can hop on the app and turn your lights on when you're at a campsite or something like that. It's just got so many inputs. It's got so much control and functionality.
And it's all solid state. There's no relays.
Yeah. And that's important. My favorite function about the Switch Pro is the fact that it's got the low voltage cutoff. So if there's ever a situation where you're kind of drawing the battery too low, it's going to protect your primary crank battery so you're not dead out on the trail.
Yeah. And in general, if you guys know, we've run Switch Pros on just about all of our rigs, including the Ultra 4 car through King of the Hammers. My buggy, the stepchild, everything. We generally go with these guys because it's not just the ease of it.
Side-by-sides.
Even the side-by-side.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with it either.
No.
I haven't had a single, and
they've always worked. They've always been reliable, and they're easy to install and program, even for someone who maybe doesn't understand electrical in the slightest. And I'm also pointing at Kevin because Kevin doesn't either.
No, seriously, every car we have ever built at APG with an aftermarket Lite controller has been a Switch Pro. And 100% of every car we've built with their product, we have not had a failure. Right. That's a testament. I've done hundreds.
Yeah. It's super cool because it will actually tell you if something's wrong. So in one of the side-by-sides, in the Pro R that we had, all of a sudden my pumper and things weren't working, and it flashes at you and it'll tell you. But what happened was the main power wire going to it was loose from beating the crap out of it and going through all the whoops and everything all the time. But instead of it frying something or becoming an issue, it literally just like tells you, hey, there's an issue on this switch or on this whatever, and then you can check it out and see what the wire, if it's the ground or power wire or whatever the case is.
But guys, and I feel like there's even little bits and pieces that we're going to discover as we wheel this thing, because again, don't get us wrong, we're gonna wheel the shit out of this thing, but you'll just kind of have to follow along. And I don't plan on making you wait very long because we're going straight from here tomorrow morning bright and early because it's going to be so freaking hot we're going to Johnson Valley with this, and that's gonna be the first shakedown run. We're gonna give it a go, we're gonna get it off-road, and we're gonna see how she performs.
You gonna jump it?
I mean, technically, because that's what kind of happens sometimes when you get it into the whoops.
Paint's still fresh.
Now, last but not least, before we officially close out this video, one more piece to the puzzle is, you guys might remember, the Wildtrak came with a soft top. The
Boo.
Factory Ford soft top.
This would look like crap if we put a soft top back on it right now.
You notice we haven't had a top on it this entire time. That's because it's going to be equipped with APG's hard top. But you can't see it yet because it's a surprise. We're gonna go put it on right now, but you'll see it when we get to Johnson Valley. We'll even do a whole video over it because it's pretty insane.
It is a custom single piece hard top, and it is the most amazing, quiet, lovely, luxury top you can get, because I don't like wind noise, and I know I'm driving a box, I know I have a Jeep, but this is basically like my luxury maybe your luxury pre-runner type thing, and the hard top the APG makes is, well, there's nothing better.
But it deserves its own video, so you're gonna have to wait and see what we have to say about that, because that in and of itself is a work of art. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, you can find all your Lite Brite Nation merch and decals at litebritstudios.com. As always, we love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Mwah.